Man, it's good to be here in Nashville with Noah and Maddy. And little Lion's going to be here in a little bit. We got to see Lion, the Herrings, who are planting a church in Nashville in just a few months. My goodness. And I couldn't wait to be here. I want to tell you something. We love this Unscripted. These are unplanned, impromptu conversations with people that we just love. Dylan will be on in a little bit, and so Dylan and I love doing these. But I don't know if I've been more excited about any time with any other leaders than you guys.
Wow.
Because you're heroes, because you are going to plant a great church.
Thank you.
You've moved into a city, and we are fired up about it.
Come on.
I mean, I am ARC fired up about it. I'm representing, man. Got my merch.
Come on.
And so we could talk about how far church merch has come, by the way.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But man, I just couldn't. I'm just so thrilled. And we just love you guys. There's so many people that love you. And everybody talks good about you. So give me a little bit of the journey.
Yeah.
Give me a little bit of the journey.
Yeah, so this is my beautiful wife, Maddy, and we've been married for almost 4 years.
Wow,
we
4
have,
years.
Lots of wisdom.
Yeah.
Lots of wisdom.
Doing marriage conferences anytime,
Yes.
any moment
Starting
now.
those right away.
Yeah, exactly.
Our son's 1 year old. His name's Lion, and we're expecting a baby girl right before the church launches. So
Perfect timing.
We figured we would go ahead and just make the church number grow, if just in case.
Right.
That's a lot of growth, 25% growth.
There we go. We're on the way. Add us to the fastest growing list.
That's it. There will be some list that you'll be added to, I'm sure.
But so we met post-college. I was leading a college ministry in Cleveland, Tennessee called The Gathering.
Yeah.
And was leading that for about 2 years, single. Met Maddy. She was in Birmingham.
Well, there we go.
Yes.
Yeah, Birmingham, Highlands girl.
Attender, yeah.
And so we started
So
dating.
you were out of Church of Highlands.
Yes, I went to Tuscaloosa's location.
That's so cool.
Yeah. So we got married, started leading the gathering together, and even before we got married, we were having the church planting conversation. It was that young, yeah. I knew that it was something that I wanted to do, and when we started dating, Maddy's grandfather actually pastored a church. What part of Alabama was it in?
It's very, very small. It's called Hayden, Alabama, near Coleman.
Yeah.
Kind of like that little area. So over there.
So
that's so cool.
She was like, I've never planted a church, but it felt like my grandfather's church was a church plant, and I really loved it. And so we kind of started having the conversation, got married. By then we knew we wanted to plant. But we were 24 and 25. I actually called ARC when I was 22. And I said,
22.
I was 22, and I was like, hey.
Yeah.
I talked to Jeff Wells. I was like,
Cool
hey.
Daddy Wells.
I said, hey, Jeff, I want to plant a church. He was like, when? I was like, next month.
Yeah.
And Jeff was super gracious. And so we...
it was a super gracious no.
It was a super gracious no. It was let's figure out how to get you to...
back in a few years.
older. But so we left the gathering and went to serve for my dad in Georgia.
That's important.
And served under my parents' leadership the last 2.5 years. Where
I met your dad.
He's loves so you. Great. He loves you. I got a selfie.
He is awesome.
He's
a great guy.
When he came up and introduced himself as your parent, I'm the dad.
Yeah.
He was beaming. He was just like, I'm Noah's dad. And it was just like, oh my gosh, and great, obviously great parents, good home,
amazing
good,
parents.
it's good to have good spiritual fathers, but man, it goes a long way when you got a good daddy.
Totally.
And that's key. And so serving there.
Yeah.
I'm talking about getting ready on Sundays.
Yep.
Taking care of young people.
Yeah.
Going out in the parking lot, waving at everybody.
Yeah.
Making sure, trying to go get that mic.
Totally.
All those things.
All of it.
Did all those things.
Yeah.
Not above any of that.
No, we actually went right when the pandemic hit. So, and the way that their church was functioning at the time too, like they had never done anything remote. They had never live streamed or done anything like that. So we were a part of that
we were
transition.
full-time media team members.
Yeah, we got to really do it all.
Yeah, it was amazing. My parents are the best shepherds that we've ever been around.
Oh my gosh, how good is that?
We felt like our experience with the college ministry, which it was a college ministry of about 600 college students. And
that's big.
It was big, and we felt like we got better during that season at learning how to communicate, learning how to cast vision.
Sure.
But with it being a college ministry, we weren't really over the shepherding as much as like our pastor was.
Oh, that's so good to hear.
And so when we went to Neighborhood Church in Atlanta, is the name of the church.
It's a good name.
We got to be up front, personal, watch my parents shepherd, even got to be a part of shepherding some of the younger couples. I feel like those 2.5 years, they were really, really hard in a, like there was a big growth curve for us. But it was invaluable. Like, we cannot imagine trying to plant this church.
So think about this. And Maddy, maybe you can answer this. So could you imagine if you'd have led the college and you would have jumped to pastoring and forgot and left out those 24 months? There's a lot of people that are leaping that. They want to leap over the simple, the small, the shepherd, the care. What would you feel like you would have missed out on?
Oh, my goodness, so much. We would have, I really don't know if we would have made it, to be honest, just because with college, we were leading people that were close to our age, but we had never led adults. We had never led people older than us. And just the experience of like learning how to deal with actual like hardships in families' lives that they're dealing with. Learning how to deal with things financially was also huge for us, just because the way that a church runs, of course, it's off of giving. And so learning those aspects were just huge for us. I really don't think that we would have been able to do what we're doing now without learning everything that we did underneath his parents.
What do you say to the person who you felt that want to leapfrog all that?
I feel like it's one of the old analogy that I thought of almost immediately when we moved to Atlanta was the two people who have an axe. They're both trying to cut down a tree. One spends the first 10 minutes sharpening the axe while the other person starts going. And I really feel like that's what it was. Not just a season where we were looking forward to church planting, but a season where God really moved in our hearts and spoke to us in a way that wouldn't have happened prior. I think it's going to make our ministry more effective. So to that person, I would say it might feel like the best route to take is to go ahead and go for it, but really not just the most spiritually correct route, but also the most spiritually effective route would be to get planted. And
you hear all, it's hard to be in authority if you're not under authority. And I think sometimes I think everybody wants a yes with everything. We live in a world that tell me yes.
Totally.
Everybody tell me yes. And sometimes the greatest thing that someone could do for you is to tell you no, not now. Because character, stamina is built in a lot of times in the no and not in the yes. And my father-in-law, who's a real hero of mine, and Dylan's granddad, he always says sometimes you just need to tell, as a leader, sometimes you just need to test a no. He said, because people, you really don't know who's on your team, or you really don't know the people in your inner circle till you see their reaction from a no.
That's good.
Because if all you ever get is a yes, then just, man, I'm with you. Now you're going to tell me, no, I can't do that. No, I can't go there. No, I can't start that. Well, then that's where you're going to find out what's on the inside. So I'm so grateful for that. Let's jump ahead to this. So it's been funny when I've talked to people and they're like, man, Noah and Maddy's planting with art, man, this is great. So the other day somebody told me, said, that's the first Gen Zers. I'm like, okay, I didn't know all that. I didn't know I don't know all these stuff. I get all of them so confused. From the Gen Z, I should know better. I've talked to Grant. He's helped me. He's coaching me. I need him to tutor me better. I need a Gen Z tutor. But, and I understand that there's a lot of dynamics to the baby boomer and the busters and the Gen X and all those things. I've studied it some, but what does that mean? I mean, what does that mean for you? And what does that, what's different about that? About the category and the decade that you're in. Because how old are you now?
27.
27?
I'm 29.
29, okay. So y'all are planting at a little bit younger. Now I was 27, my wife was 23. Different world. So talk to me about that.
So we love Gen Z.
Gen
Z, a part of what we've been able to do the last couple of years outside of serving with my parents is we've been traveling, speaking at youth conferences and young adult conferences and stuff like that. And it's been predominantly young adult ministry or Gen Z ministry that we've done. There's so many amazing, very polarizing things about Gen Z. But the thing that we love about Gen Z so much is there is a deep desire for realness and for them to be challenged. And so what we've seen is like in the past, there's been stuff done on millennials and even
millennials. Yeah, that's another one.
Yes,
I missed that one.
We're technically like right on the cusp.
We're right on the cusp between Gen Z and millennials. But a lot of what makes Gen Z unique is that we found whatever they're doing, whether it's church related or unchurch related, they want to be challenged. And so they respond to the challenge, which kind of doesn't go with some of the stereotypes that are out there. You know, Gen Z, you think of TikTok, you think of social media, you think of less interaction with people. I'd push back. I would say that Gen Z is a part of those things a lot of times because they're just bored. And what we've seen is that the Gen Z ministries that are led by someone who's willing to challenge them, they're doing amazing things. We think Gen Z is going to change the world for Jesus. So we're so pumped.
I feel like they're the most hungry generation.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I feel like they can
exciting.
see, it's really encouraging, especially like he said, since we've been able to travel and be around them. Like, seeing the ways that they believe in miracles and seeing the ways that they are just so leaned in to like all that God can do in their life has just been like eye-opening to us, even, and refreshing.
The altar call is back.
Yes.
And Gen Z, they're hungry. They're hungry.
I've been waiting on the altar call.
Come on.
Yes.
I'm Pentecostal. If you cut me, I'm really Pentecostal. So let's go.
They're amazing. We love Gen Z.
So when you're traveling, speaking, how are you processing that into the church plant?
Yes.
So what does that look like? What is some of those convos? Meeting with launch team, you're doing interest meetings, you're gathering a team. Still got to get a team together. Still got to raise finances.
Totally.
Still got to get a place to launch a church at. Still got to be able to disciple and have some type of next steps when they come to your church and whatever that language is. You know, some growth track, some pathway. So tell me about that, because it's still a little ways off. But I know you're looking at it.
Totally. This is like taking up the majority of our combos right now because we are super, I guess the best way to describe it would be at the gathering, we felt like we eventually hit a point where we had an impressive ministry that did not look like Jesus. And the core of it was we felt like we could gather people, but we weren't really making disciples.
Okay.
And it was honestly physically exhausting and spiritually exhausting.
And it bums you out.
Yes. We felt like there was this revolving door where there would be people who would come, people who wouldn't. And so eventually we were able to get to the core of it and felt like we need to do a better job of making disciples. And so from the beginning, our focus with this Gen Z church is going to be discipleship and spiritual formation. And how do we get the people who are on our team to buy into not just saying, I want to be discipled, but I want to make a disciple too. And so that's what we're focusing on, and we think we are going to bring back church membership class.
Let's go.
We think we're bringing
it's orientation.
Exactly.
It's spiritual, it's just spiritual orientation. You know, I showed up at a church when I was 18 years old, did not know anything, did not know the books of the Bible, didn't know, nothing. And that little church that had so many challenges and issues and problems, and we met in an old drugstore, and they still had all the signs from the drugstore on the wall. Greeting cards, drugs, groceries. It was no environment. Zero environment. We're talking about a few mics. Everything was cords everywhere. Metal chairs. And I think it was like a bread basket was the offering basket. Or a little, no, it was like a little...
from the grocery store.
No, it was like a little like a bucket.
Okay.
Like they had some potato salad in that the day before. And so, but I'm going to tell you what that little church did. When I came into there, I was new. Went to an orientation, went to a membership gathering of some sort. And then they put me on a pathway. And I think they called it like Jesus Pathway.
Okay.
I mean, jacked up name, but that's spiritual formation.
Yeah.
That's a growth track. That's a next step.
Totally.
That's a connect. And what I do, 52-week discipleship book. Well,
Wow.
Okay, hey, small group.
Yeah.
I got involved with a young adult small group where they taught this 52-week. They were in some calendar systematized way of learning the Bible.
Yeah.
And I would not be here talking with you guys
Wow.
here in Nashville if it wouldn't have been for that little church who put me on a pathway.
Yeah.
And I think that's huge. And I think you're never going to build a sustaining, prevailing church without that journey.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I think that's our biggest thing is when we talk about discipleship, even we see that a lot of people don't even truly understand what discipleship is.
True.
Yeah.
So that's a part of it. It's like it is the next steps. It's like, okay, I want to be all in, but I have absolutely no idea how that looks because we want to reach the lost too. And
we feel like with discipleship, it's such a Gen Z. A lot of Gen Z, they're like, what is discipleship? Like I kind of have an idea, and so with where we're at, knowing that that's going to be a large group of our congregation. Right. We feel like in order for us to actually disciple, we have to define it first. Yeah. And I've heard this quote several times actually from Pastor Chris Hodges about
Brother Hodges.
What you count and what you celebrate matters.
Yeah.
And so we're like, well, we can't count a disciple if we haven't defined a disciple. So let's define it. Good. Let's start counting it. Let's start celebrating it, and hopefully we'll create a culture of that.
So give me this Way Church.
Yeah.
Okay, launching in
August.
So just, my goodness, 7-8 months. I mean, we're getting ready to start the first service.
Come on.
Y'all getting ready to walk on stage and greet everybody. I mean, we're around the corner from the greeting.
Absolutely.
I met you. I got 1 minute. And what is your church about? People ask you, what is your church about? What's that about? Give me an elevator. Give me a 30. Way Church. What is that? There's so many great churches.
Yeah.
Why do we need this church?
Yeah. Yeah, so the mission statement is simply we want to show the city of Nashville that there's a better way through the person of Jesus. And it's not just a way for your eternity, it's a way for your life.
Yeah.
And we're focusing on...
Better Way Church.
Better Way Church. That's it. But we're focusing, we want to be known for three things. We want to be known for evangelism.
Okay, reaching people.
Reaching people.
Where they're at.
Exactly. At serving. That's going to be a part of that. Just loving the city of Nashville. Number 2, we want to be known for spiritual formation.
Excellent.
And number 3, we want to be known for next gen ministry. Just reaching the next generation. And so everything that we do is...
Recent middle schoolers, boy, let's go.
Come on.
Recent middle schoolers.
It's the fun age.
Do you know my favorite group to preach to as middle school kids?
Really?
I love it more than adults.
That's rare.
I mean, I thank God. We all get to speak at incredible places. And I don't know about you. I still feel humbled every time I stand in front of people. Yeah. I just because of how far God has brought me, all that I've walked through, good days, bad days, mountaintops, valleys. I still have amazing grace moments. I'll do it this Sunday. When I get the opportunity, but if my favorite are junior high kids, because they're just fun. Yep. And hey, you talk about altar call, roll it out. They coming forward, and they're gonna cry, and they're gonna love on it. He's gonna cry, so it's one of my favorite things. I love that you know exactly what the church is to be about. I think that's important. As complicated as humanity is. I think the more simpler you could say, this is who we are, this is what we're about, and this is what we're going to try to be. Yeah.
That's having a wise wife who reminds you that you can't do everything at one time. So we're so excited. We feel like those three things, if we're good at those three things, or even close to good at those three things, that our church has an amazing chance at reaching lost people.
Because there's great churches here.
Absolutely.
Phenomenal churches in Nashville.
Everywhere.
And but you feel like there's room. Yeah. There's a niche for you. Yeah. And I love, we've talked a lot about this, and I just honor those who have paid the price in Nashville. And I tell you all the time, when you're talking about churches, it's never, hey, I'm coming into this great city, coming alongside of all the other great churches.
Absolutely.
And so what does that mean for y'all?
Yeah.
I will actually honor Noah just a little bit on that, because that was something that was super important to us before we even came, and him making a lot of maybe the uncomfortable phone calls for some.
So that's a practical thing.
Yes. And so he just wanted to introduce himself and say like, hey, we're coming. And I want to learn from you. Like, what areas have you seen need, more churches? What areas have you seen don't need more churches? What schooling systems need help? Those kinds of things have just been small practical ways that we've wanted to let other churches know too, that we want to come alongside and help them help the city.
Absolutely.
Not like,
So you've called guys or text guys or gone to see them.
Yes. Actually, we realized there's a very rich history here in Nashville with ministry, churches. We feel like God is stirring something right now. Just the church unity here is amazing. We had lunch about a year ago, and I don't even know if you remember this. I asked you, I said, what would you be doing right now this far away? And the first thing you said was, I'd be getting to know as many pastors in Nashville as you could. And so what I did is I had a few friends here. I said, hey, give me just a list of churches that you think are just doing amazing things. I came up with about 10 churches.
That's good.
And I took each one of those pastors either to coffee or to lunch.
Perfect.
And just said, hey, we would love to learn from you guys. We would love to ask you how we can help as we're coming, just help your church. Is there any way that we could even bring with our launch team that's moving here, could we even bring them to maybe one of your serve projects and watch how you're serving Nashville? And that has helped us. Like, we would have planted in the wrong spot. We would have planted with the wrong people. We would have done everything backwards if it wasn't for those pastors. And I really do feel like we have gained so much from that. Like,
I want to take this part of the recording and take it out, guys, and then just play a clip of it over and over again, because there's just a lot we can learn from each other, and I'm not going to be better because I put another person in a bad light.
Absolutely.
I've never thought the kingdom of God grows when I'm bringing the kingdom down. I never understood that. I never understood how someone in their mind could think, I'm going to grow by putting others down. Yeah. That's not Jesus. Yeah. It's impossible. Right. Matter of fact.
Absolutely. I mean, like, we've been in ministry for 6 years. It would be so foolish of us to show up and,
about to tell y'all what to do.
Exactly. Like the pastor down the street has been in Nashville for 35 years, and for us to show up and be like, this is how we're going to reach the city. It's just foolish. And so we're so grateful for so many pastors, so many leaders who have been here for decades that we're now getting to step in and stand on their shoulders, partner with them. Nashville is an amazing city, and it's already being reached. So.
I want to ask you, Maddy, little 1-year-old Lion, one on the way, going to happen around the time. What is that feeling like as a young church planter, wife, and mother? What's your encouraging words?
It's a little scary, but it's also so exciting just because I have like full confidence in knowing that like we wouldn't be called to plant in the church and be blessed with a baby if we couldn't do it. And I think we've always, for us, when we first got married and knowing that we wanted to plant a church, our biggest thing was our family is our ministry. Mm-hmm. Always. That's our first ministry that we serve. Yeah. And we want a big family, and we want our kids to grow up, and we want them to see the process of everything that we do and see the good in starting a church and loving on the community. Yeah. I know I'm praying for help along the way because we don't have our families here with us.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
And so there is an aspect to it that is can be challenging, can be a little nerve-wracking.
We got our dogs here. One of our dogs.
Yeah, I know.
Hey,
but I think it's really exciting too, just because we've wanted more kids and we want them to be a part of everything that we do, and this is a part of what we're called to do. And so just to have them like alongside us is going to be wild.
Yeah,
wild.
And you're in a great city.
Yeah.
I think
you're in a great city.
Our kids, our son has also been our secret weapon so far, being in Nashville.
You just bringing places alive.
He just.
There was a picture you showed me. We'll make sure we show that one of little man in the glasses. That's hilarious.
He has the best personality. Yeah. We have never been in public, and he doesn't care about us when we're in public. He wants to look at everybody else, and he just waves.
Yeah,
oh, that's
He
church
waves
builder.
and smiles, and I'm like, well, there's our door greeter.
Yeah,
right there.
We've literally like ended up getting phone numbers from people that we
Yeah.
don't even know because he waved at them and was so happy.
Just go to a restaurant, kind of sit him in the middle of the
Just
room.
Yes.
Yeah, so
I mean,
he's our evangelism tactic for
He
sure.
is.
Well, it's good that I think we're going to walk around the city and see some things. Y'all are going to have some talks about that with Dylan, because I think, when God calls you to a city and calls you to an area of a city, and working with pastors and others that are here to find that spot. We've talked a lot about reaching people, Gen Z, planting a church. We're living in a crazy culture. There's a lot of pastors are discouraged.
Yeah.
Is theology going to be sound in the next generation? Will there be biblical literate? Will they hold the principles, the line of marriage and parenting and valuing life and all these things that are so important to what we teach and what Jesus taught us. What is so you can get negative about it.
Sure.
You can get down. You can be like, man, is anybody gonna hold the line? Is anybody gonna live for God? How have you how do you stay positive in a cancel culture? In a culture that confuses with so many young people, sexual orientation, all these things that are happening around us. What is your hope in your future in speaking to that?
Yeah.
As you've traveled and planning a church in the world that we're in right now.
Totally. I think something we say all the time, and this is not a unique statement, but as a reminder, is it's just as the world gets darker, the church is going to get brighter, and we really do believe that. We feel like, and a big reason we are naming our church Way Church, is we feel like when Jesus is your way, it affects every other thing about you, every other way about you. And so we just believe like as good as great preaching is, as good as great churches are, as good as great leadership is, what is going to reach the next generation in this dark, crazy culture is just a whole bunch of Christians who are so changed by Jesus that it affects every way of their life. So a bunch of great moms living in a neighborhood who love the Lord and love their families. That's going to impact people way more than a great sermon on a Sunday. A bunch of great schools, like if the Lord was to take you out of your neighborhood, the neighborhood should feel it. That should be for every Christian on planet Earth. They should feel when you leave. They should feel when you're there. And we feel like that is the way that Christians are going to impact culture right now.
Have you seen that, Maddy, with culture? I mean, what is when you think raising kids and being a pastor's wife and helping young moms and young ladies and single moms and all the things that we're called to care for?
I think that, I'll speak on just being like a mom, like you were talking about.
A mom that's a leader.
Yeah, it does make a difference, you just living your life a different way, because people are wondering how you're walking through hardships or how you're walking through raising a child and not being totally afraid and having that peace and having God's word to fall in truth. And so I really think that just speaks so much louder than us getting sometimes on our social medias and screaming the Bible down someone's throat all the time or things like that. And I think that for us personally, we've had people be like, how in the world do you have joy? How do you have peace still? Yeah. And that allows, the way that you live opens up those conversations for you to then be able to tell them God's word and the truth. Yeah. And then allows them to, I am the way, the truth, and the life. So
there we go.
That's where
she's preaching.
That's where the name comes
She's going to
from.
preach.
She can.
So if you can live the way that Jesus lived here on earth, you're going to understand his truth. And you're going to be able to live a life that's different. Yeah. And so I feel like that's something that we've just seen in our own lives, like around our small sphere of people just being like, how are you doing that? And you still have a smile on your face. Yeah.
I first heard of you through my son. Yeah. And I think he knew you through different ways. And then we got to know Grant. Yeah. Grant Skeldon. I always say his name wrong. And doing some cool things. Yeah. Love what he's doing with Gabe Lyons and all that they're doing. Great group. And doing a lot to reach the next culture. Yeah. A ton. Absolutely. And but you've got great relationships. I mean, And I love how you've honored all of those. Just kind of, hey, we're going to take this and we're going to take this and we'll bring it together. I think that's going to help you plant a world-changing. Again, I don't know if I've been. I get excited about church plants. Get excited about all of them, and we'll plant hopefully in 2023, 50, 55 churches. But wow. Y'all are going to plant and lead a great church.
Thank you so much.
I just know it. I feel it, and I just know it's going to happen.
Thank you, Pastor Dino. Thank you.
Hey, we are here with the Herrin family. We're in Nashville. Yes. We made it. We're looking at the future running back for the Tennessee Titans.
We declare it.
Maybe a country music star.
Yes.
Maybe an evangelist.
We'll take any of it.
He's got options.
Yes.
Hey, we're here in Nashville. Going to be planting a church here really in the next few months in those early planting seasons. But I remember, I think when we first met, it was maybe through Grant.
Yep.
I feel like any Kingdom connection,
he's the guy.
There's always a tie that's like, yeah, did you know Grant Skeldon or Q, or you were at a lake house with a bunch of influencers?
Random. Yes.
And I think that's how we first got connected. And then you guys coming out to Birmingham and being a part of our college ministry. Hey, buddy. You can't teach that charisma. He's his father's son. So you guys came out to Birmingham, did our one college service last semester, which was amazing. So and you never know when you're kind of meeting people online and through people. And then when we hung out, I was like, okay, this is my guy. We're gonna play a lot of bad golf for the rest of our life.
Amen.
We're gonna eat good food, and we're gonna do life together. So it's cool being here. Filming some areas in the city. But I got to know, I feel like as someone who you were traveling, you were with your parents, we talked about this morning, serving at their church for a few years. I feel like nowadays, church planning, for a while, maybe it was, there were unreached cities, or maybe it was easier, and sometimes now it's harder. But I feel like it's definitely not the easy route nowadays. And kind of touch on, hey, maybe why Nashville? We're looking at this amazing city. Was there a moment? Was there a conversation? Was there like you came to the city on vacation and never wanted to leave? Was there a moment before the moment? Kind of talk us through why Nashville and what do you kind of see for this city? I love it already.
Yeah, we definitely did visit here a lot. Noah has the December birthday, so I always tried to make sure that I celebrated it outside of like Christmas.
Right, you gotta get creative.
Like, with December birthdays, you kind of
you can get overlooked
sometimes. So I always made sure we did something fun, and we always came to Nashville. So it was just a city that we always like naturally loved visiting. And every time we were here, we just like would drive around and be like, wow, I just really, really love this city. It feels like home. I didn't really want to leave sometimes. And so I feel like when the conversation came, it was a very like
it just started
there was
like
a piece.
It started where we were here a lot. We were here birthdays, we were here for holidays, any free like weekends. We're like, let's just go to Nashville.
Somehow we ended up back here.
And so then when we knew like our timeline a little bit more, we were like, hey, we feel like this is coming. We started asking mentors, people who have spiritually poured into us. And I was actually speaking at a conference in Arkansas, and Pastor Stephen Chandler was the other speaker. We were playing golf, as you do. All the life-changing decisions happen on a golf course.
They have to.
And I said, Pastor Stephen, if you were to plant now, like what would you go back and tell yourself? And he said something that kind of became the deal sealer. He said, I would plant in the city that you love the most. He said, take all the other stuff out of it. What city do you love the most? Because the ministry will get really hard. The kind of highlight season that you feel when you announce that you're planting in a city, that'll go away. But if you love the city, you won't be tempted to leave the city before God tells you to. And when he said that, it was just like, it's Nashville. And so I remember, like, as soon as we got done playing a horrible round of golf, I called Maddy. I was like, this is what Pastor Stephen said. What do you think when you hear that? And she's like, it's Nashville. And so that was the moment that we knew it was here.
Had that, I know, how long have you guys been married now?
Almost 4 years, 3.5 years.
3.5
years. We'll give you 4 years.
Almost 4.
Was that always something you guys talked about? Like, hey, much as we're here at the church with our parents and traveling around, getting to be a part of speaking at young adult conferences and youth conferences. Was that always something down the road when the timing's right? Was there maybe even a time that it felt right, and then it was like looking back in retrospect, it was like, okay, this is the right timing. Thankful for maybe an unanswered prayer.
Totally.
But was that always something you guys wanted to do and was in your heart and just wanted to wait for the right time, right people?
We definitely, that was a conversation when we were dating, just because, of course, Noah felt called.
This is the real conversation.
Yeah, you have to have those kind of conversations, especially before you marry somebody. You want to do it together. And so,
as a single guy, I know, like the guy speaking on marriage.
Yeah. So we had that conversation since dating.
Right.
And then I would say even specifically way more when we first got married and we were in Cleveland, Tennessee, doing the young adult ministry there. And it was just always like, we want to be so present where we are, but we know that this is like to come.
That was the big dream, was the plan.
So it was just like a continuous prayer. And then, what cities do we love? Just like those conversations always happening. But I definitely think that the season when we were in Cleveland was that big like moment where we were like, we could and we want to, but this is not the timing.
It's not the time.
This is not the timing.
And that's when we decided to go and serve underneath my parents. We felt like there was another season that needed to happen, but we came really close. And we didn't know it was Nashville at that time, but we actually came close to just moving to Nashville and figuring it out.
Flying in.
So it's always been Nashville. That's what I'm trying to say. Nashville is where we want to be here forever. So
this is where we want our kids to grow up.
And so you guys did the college ministry, and it was in Cleveland,
Tennessee,
for years. I feel like even in my setting where we're leading All Things One in Birmingham and doing the weekly college service, it stretched me a lot. And I think even in terms of a weekly service is different than a monthly service.
Totally.
I know you guys did weekly, and it's like those Thursdays or Tuesdays, whatever night you do them, they come around quick. Those day of messages and just getting the team ready. What did that season kind of teach you? And then if you could tell maybe someone who's in that season, whether it's a youth pastor or a young adult pastor who's going, 2, 3, 4 years down the road, I maybe do have a call to plant a church on my life with my wife and, maybe, my backing. What would you tell that person in terms of processing it? Because I think, when you look at you guys, you look at, hey, this is going to be an amazing church, but you've really done it the right way, kind of 7-8 months out, and even getting to the city a year before you're even going to plant, going to those other churches. And what would you say you kind of learned in that season?
Man, I think we're so grateful for the college ministry season because we really did feel like this is a mini church plant kind of. Like we're having to build our own team. What
was I love the story you told about y'all's first night, maybe at the gathering. You had like a special guest coming in and then last second, like he didn't come in and you had to with 5 minutes to spare. Well, there was people in the room, and it's like somebody's got to preach.
Yeah, so it was like it started as a Bible study before it was like a college ministry. It was just like let's just have some guys over and read scripture, and it started to grow to the point where I was like, let's do it in a lecture hall and promote it. Let's see what happens.
Let's tell people about this.
Let's tell people. And we went from like 50 people at Bible study to like 150 people our first night in a lecture hall, and I'd never preached before, and so. I pull up into the lecture hall facility, and our worship, the guy who was like leading a song of worship on his acoustic guitar, he comes out and he's like, hey, the lecture hall's packed. I thought we double booked. I didn't think they were there for Bible study.
Right.
And I was like, man, that's unfortunate.
Yeah, surely there's a concert.
What's happening? And he's like, no, they're all here for Bible study.
For our thing.
And he goes, you're going to have to preach. There's too many people in there to do a Bible study. And I was like, you're going to have to preach? Like, are you kidding me?
Small groups.
Yeah, no way. And so I went in and I preached the worst 11-minute sermon you've ever heard in your life. Like,
short and sweet.
Just horrible. It was so bad. I don't even know that it was biblical. I mean, it was rough. But God had a grace on the ministry, and we just kept going. I think the biggest thing we learned was that just the the intentionality of discipling your leaders and your team, like really when we look back, the most quote unquote successful times were not the times when we had the biggest number of attendance, but the times where we were reaching lost people, we were baptizing people, we were serving the homeless. It was when we had a core group of leaders who were really being discipled and had bought into discipling others.
Right.
And so, I think to someone who's thinking about planning, I would just say, don't view the ministry that you're doing as practice ministry.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
it's real ministry, and it's gonna serve you so well down the road. Just learn from it, go for it, and spend your time focus on those leaders.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who was when you felt like, okay, Nashville's the city.
Yeah.
This is kind of the timeline. What were those first few conversations you had? I'm assuming you talked to your dad.
Yep.
Some close homies. But what were those first few conversations like?
So talk
it's
to
like
the parents.
once you put it out there, it's like, okay, we've got to do this.
Totally.
I think the hardest conversation was with his parents.
Yeah.
Not because we knew they wouldn't support us.
Yeah, right.
That was like the complete opposite. But just because we were doing ministry with them, and of course that's every family's dream is
building.
to be, together. So that was like our hardest, and I feel like we had that blessing. It was
Everything
smooth
else was
sailing.
easier after that.
Right.
you know?
Yeah.
Once you get that, yes.
That one
it's
was like the biggest. They knew we wanted to plant, but we just were so like,
Right.
we're gonna miss
Yeah.
miss serving under their leadership, miss living next to them. So we
Right.
shared with them, and then from there it was like a select group of mentors, like family members, and then eventually friends and people that we were hoping would join us in the church plant journey. But the more people we told, I think the happier we were, because
Right.
it felt like we were just like hiding this massive dream for so long, and to be able to just start sharing it with people and our vision. I feel like we've gotten progressively happier along the journey.
Totally.
So
No, that's amazing. And I mean, Nashville is such an amazing city. I know it's like oftentimes, God send me. And then it's like, well, I mean, thankful you sent me here.
Totally.
This is, like you said, you got to love the city.
Absolutely.
Because 2-3 years in, things get normal, things get tough. Maybe some of the hype dies a little bit, and it's like, hey, we actually live here.
Yeah.
Like we go to the Publix down the road and the Walgreens right here. Like we got to love our area. Who are some of the guys who either you've looked to or you've seen over the past few years have done it well, and some of those conversations that you've had? Who are you kind of looking to in this season as guys who have gone before you?
Well, I think early
Especially,
on,
I think even touching on the fact that you guys will be co-leading the church.
Totally. I think early on, like the Wilkersons have always been people we've looked up to. They planted as a couple, started a family around the same time, like loved the city of Miami. So we've looked up to them a lot. The Woodwards, Brandon and Delaney Woodward, they just planted an amazing church in DC. Same type of thing. Several like small children, they're moving to a city. Figuring it out.
Let's get it all done early.
We just love like their boldness and the way that they're doing everything together. I would say those two couples have really, really inspired us.
So we're here, downtown Nashville. I think Broadway is right here. Nash Vegas, Music City. Such a diverse city. Multicultural.
Totally.
Almost, I lived in New York for a little bit. In a sense, reminds me a little bit of that, of a boiling pot, of a lot of different people. And what I love about it too is it's such a city of inspiration and creativity. Everybody's trying to be something and get somewhere and hustle and grind. Tell me a little bit about kind of the demographic, the diversity, the culture. You guys are going to be living here over a year before you even plant the church. What's that kind of look like, and what are you excited about planting in a city like that?
Go ahead.
Something that we prayed for from the very beginning was a very diverse church. I mean, even within our group right now, it's like we want that diversity. So even when it comes to preaching styles, like we have already a team that looks different, that kind of speaks differently. And so that was something that was just super important to us from the very beginning. And it just is so amazing that we also live in a city where that is like so evident and so needed too. I mean, we're surrounded by How many colleges?
So there's 4 universities in the city.
Just within the city limits?
It's a city that just people are flocking to from all over the country. In 2022, it was the most moved to city, kind of neck and neck with Austin, Texas.
Wow.
And I think there's a bunch of reasons for that. I think the main reason is there's so much opportunity here, whether you're coming because you're chasing a music dream or you're coming because Amazon and Google are moving here. Like there's so many different industries. And what really attracts us about that is that it's attracting more young families and young people than any other demographic. And so our thought is, hey, we know we're young. We know some people would see that as a weakness. Some people would see that as a strength. We want to lean into the strength of it. Let's get here as all these other young families are moving here. And could we plant a church right in the middle of all the opportunity, all of the chaos, all of the fun, and point people to Jesus? And I think that's the goal and the dream. But it's just a bunch of people here are looking for a better way for their life, and we're gonna say, hey, the way is Jesus, and come check out Way Church.
Right. No, yeah, and I love a church that always reflects its city. And then just you kind of using that in some people's eyes could be a weakness. Hey, we're a young couple, but I think using that as a strength is like, hey, we're a young couple, and we're going to be able to relate to other young couples and other young families. And you always attract different demographics, but that kind of being a value for you guys, I think is sick. Obviously, there's some great churches in Nashville. I feel like I drove past probably 10 or 20 on the way here. What are some great churches that you feel like have kind of gone before you? Just in this city.
Man, Crosspoint Church is one we're right down the street from. They're amazing. Pastor Kevin Queen. The Belonging Co. is one that most people have on their iPhone. Belonging Co. The Seelys.
I've heard
incredible
great things,
church. There's a really established older church called Brentwood Baptist that has just been so supportive. Thompson Station Church. Church of the City. I mean, there's just Legacy Church. There's like 12 churches that we are like in relationship with just in the first 2 months of being here, but there are a ton of great churches.
When I love the fact that oftentimes you could almost see that as a negative thing. Of, I even hear like some of us younger guys, it's like, well, all the great cities are taken. Or all the cities we'd want to be in, there's already 30 churches. Talk to me about almost seeing that as a good thing. It's like, man, that makes me more secure.
I think it's only a negative thing if lost people aren't really your goal. Just to be fully transparent, I mean, we talked with your dad earlier just about the crazy culture we live in. People are leaving the church, less and less people attend church. And so we're like, hey, we would rather be in a city where there are churches we can learn from because we're trying to reach lost people than go to a city where there's, where we're not called just for the sake of, hey, there's not as many churches here. And so our whole thought is like, there's churches here, but there's also a lot of lost people here. There's also a lot of lost people coming here. And so we're not we're not coming to compete with the church down the street. We're coming to reach the lost people that are in Nashville. And so it was a no-brainer for us.
And I know we talked a little bit earlier about kind of what you want Way Church to be known for. Whether it's, next gen discipleship and reaching the city and outreach and evangelism. What are some of those things that it's like, okay, we want our church to be set apart in this way? A lot of great churches, same vision, same goal. We want to reach the lost, but specifically, we want our church to be. Lion's excited about that. He's like, I've got some thoughts. Shut up, Dylan.
He wants his mom.
What do you want to be known for?
We want to be known for evangelism. I mean, for us, like, evangelism brings a lot to mind for different people. Obviously, we want to share the gospel. I think that's the core of evangelism, but we're going to do that through serving the city, serving the local school system that needs some help here in the city. So evangelism, spiritual formation is the second part, making disciples, forming people in the image of Christ. And then the last thing is next gen ministry. And so, if it doesn't fit in one of those 3 buckets, we might not ever do anything besides those 3 buckets for the next 30 years unless God speaks something differently. That's what we're going to focus on. But above all, we hope that if someone comes to Way Church, that they will just feel like they belong, and that we hope to lead them to Christ. But then after that, we really hope that the way of Jesus changes every way of their life, every part of their life. That's the vision and the goal.
I think something that stands out and always has stood out to me about Highlands too is that, of course, I know people know Pastor Chris, but a lot more times people talk about Church of the Highlands as a church, and it's not solely based around just the pastor of the church. And I think for us, like, that is something that's really important. Like, we don't want to be known. We don't want to be known, and we don't want even just the leaders to be the reason why people come. We want people to come because of, like, our church,
Community,
the body of the church, the body of Christ.
What God's doing.
So that's something that, like, we definitely want to stick out. We don't want just people to be like, let's go to Noah and Maddie's church. We want people to say, let's go to Way Church.
For sure. Well, and me and my dad, we were talking about, they did an episode on season 1 with Pastor John Siebling in Memphis. He's one of my dad's best friends. He's the man. And they were talking about, even since COVID, I feel like it forced us to create and imagine in so many different ways that we didn't have to before, which we can take into this next season going, man, we didn't even know how to do online church. Now we can stream to any venue in the city. But while a lot of things have changed, there's also a lot of things that have stayed the same. And we were talking about kind of like, hey, what still works? Prayer. Loving your family, being kind to people. Maybe even like being a pastor's kid. What were some of the things that, you watch your dad pastoring, your mom leading? What are some of the things you saw them do? And then some of the things that it's like, hey, we're going to push and we're going to get creative. But we really see, these 3 fundamental things work. And that's going to kind of what we're going to put a lot of focus on.
I think my parents, they always were very practical. Like, what's the practical need of the city and how can we help solve it? And so I think food tends to be one that is always, people are always in need of food. There's always going to be people who can't afford food or can't afford to feed their family. And so I think that's something like very practical that is very prevalent here in Nashville. I mean, just on our walk over here, there was a bunch of homeless people. There was a homeless man who was sitting right here, right as we walked up. And I just think, I think that's something, like, just asking ourselves, even as we've been here for 2 months, what are the practical needs of the city? I think that people are much more open to a gospel conversation when you're meeting one of their physical needs first. And so that's what we're looking for. I think all the stuff that, like, pastors tend to get excited about, I know I get excited about, whether it's like how to use social media more effectively, or like how can we reach people online? Like, all that stuff is amazing. Like, we're gonna do those things, but I think the things that are the most effective are the same things that were most effective 20 years ago. Feeding people, showing up for people when they're in need. Just really practically, how can we make your life better, and then can we make your soul better through the person of Jesus? So,
those things don't go out of style.
Absolutely.
I think you guys are going to do great at that.
Thank you.
So we're here. At this point, we're about 6-7 months out. Still looking for a venue. Kind of have some ideal areas.
We'll take any of them.
Any of these, if anyone wants to prophetically speak.
Yes.
Right across from the stadium. What are you kind of thinking on venue? I know there's always an ideal option, area, venue, whether it's portable or a home base. What are you kind of thinking venue? And I know, you're still praying through a lot of that.
We would love to be as close to the city as possible. I think we kind of have like a 5-mile radius around the city that we would love to stay inside of. We've looked at everything from schools to theaters to music, community centers. So I think just somewhere that we could be more than just Sunday would be top of the list for us. Somewhere that we could, even if we can't office out of it, that's okay. Just some place that we could come in on a Friday and give out food to people who need food, or have some sort of single moms night for moms who could use some time off from taking care of the kids. Something like that, where it's not just, hey, you can only be here for 3 hours on a Sunday. Would be our dream at this point.
No, that's amazing. We've known each other for a few years now, on and off. But when you think about planting a church, there's a lot of options you can go. You can kind of pioneer it on your own. Obviously, you're connected to a lot of different people and groups in the church world. Why, when it came down to it, when you figured out, hey, we're going to go to Nashville, we're going to plant in this city, we're going to do it at this timing. What made sense about ARC and what made that decision, I guess, an easy decision?
Yeah. So I wasn't joking
Not
earlier.
a loaded question.
I wasn't joking earlier. I called ARC when I was 22 years old.
That's amazing.
And I was like, hey, I know I want to plant a church. I've heard that you guys are the people I'm supposed to call. What do I do? And the first person I talked to was a guy named Jeff Wells, who is
Jeff.
still, we just love that guy so much. And right away, even though he knew in the back of his mind, you are way too young to plant a church, he just handled it so graciously and was so encouraging, and not just like encouraging, blowing smoke. Like genuinely, I felt like he cared about me as a person.
Yeah, he's that guy.
And
he has for years as our family.
Just checked in on us. He connected us with the Roberys, and then eventually met your dad and Mark Cleary, and just the whole team. Every person that we've met has been just genuinely cared about us as individuals, our walk with the Lord. And so I would say the main reason we went ARC was just relationship.
Yeah.
Like ARC had a great reputation. Like these people know how to plant churches. They know how to do the logistical thing. But for us, it was easy because we felt like we wanted to plant with friends. And I actually heard one of the other episodes of Unscripted where I think it might have been Pastor Siebling was talking about just God friendships and covenant relationships. And we really feel like our relationship with ARC is one of those friendships where it was just like, hey, from the beginning, God crossed our paths. From the beginning, you guys have supported and just believed in us. Why would we not? It was more like, why would we not do this?
Yeah, it was obvious.
It was obvious. And so we are so grateful, and we've already learned a ton. And just like, even beyond like ARC, the employees and the people who run ARC, the amount of ARC pastors, it feels like a fraternity of just like, yo, we're all crazy. Yeah. We're all for each other. And we've just met so many amazing friends through the process as well.
Yeah, well, I know. And we're super excited. We love you guys, the whole Rizzo family, really me included. And I think it shows, I feel like there's been waves of church planting, right? There was kind of our dad's generation, and then there was kind of this next generation of, you're Rich and you're Chad and some of these young guys going to plant in different cities who, run incredible churches now. And then kind of guys who are similar our age, 25, 30, early 30s. And just to show kind of on our end that like, hey, we plant, couples that are 50 years old with, kids in high school, but also, there's really no number, there's no age limit on when God can call you to go plant a church in a city. I feel like everybody's on their own journey. So we're super excited to be a part of it.
Thank you, man.
And I know you are going to crush it.
Thank you, man.
I can see us being here 4 or 5 years from now.
Come on.
Looking back at this conversation.
It'd be awesome.
This guy's going to be playing for the Titans at that point. And I know we're super excited. I know you're going to impact the city like crazy. And now we got an extra reason to come to Nashville all the time. Short trip across the pond from Birmingham.
That's it.
And so it's exciting.
Thank you, man.
And we're excited for you guys.
Thank you, bro. We love you.
Well, hopefully you enjoyed this episode of Unscripted. I want to take a moment to thank all those that are partners who help make Unscripted possible. One of those is the Wesleyan Investment Foundation. They've been helping churches and church planters with their borrowing and investment needs. Very important when you're growing as a church. They've been doing it for about 80 years. So if you're dreaming of a new space, a new opportunity, or just how to invest your resources to get the greatest return, then I want you to think of WIF. So if you want more information about them, they're incredible people. Check out wifonline.com and they'll give you all that information. But then also, I want to take a moment to thank Vapor Ministries. Vapor Ministry mobilizes the church, bringing physical relief and spiritual transformation to people living in extreme poverty. We've been a part of this now for years here at Church of the Highlands, but also so many churches around the country are being a part of Vapor. Here's what they do. They establish holistic ministry, these centers, and they're run by people right there in that community that bring transformation through great education, clean water, how important is that, agricultural development, and then employment. And then it creates this economic growth in the community while doing what? While building disciples that multiply and expand the church, reaching more people for Christ It's an incredible thing. So for more information, how you can support this incredible effort, then check out vaporministries.org. And hey, don't forget, if you're not a part of ARC, we want to invite you to learn more. Whether you're an existing church looking for relationship or to be a sending church, that is so important in the world right now, and you want to just have impactful missions to be a part of, then we want to be a part of that. Or you're a potential church planter. We'd love to meet you. Come do life with our leaders and our pastors, all those that have planted churches. So check out our website, arcchurches.com, to connect with us. Let's connect. Come on, somebody.